a lot of questions that we have to be asking ourselves about what is going on. My role in this really, I think, is to introduce a little bit of the background of the case. As I say, my name is Steve Downs. I was a retired lawyer, and in my retirement I got involved as a sort of volunteer member of the defense team and in connection with the Yasin Aref. And because of that, I had a certain knowledge about the case, which I will try to share with you tonight. And next to me here, sitting next to me, is Shamshad Ahmad, who is the president of the mosque that Yasin was the imam of. And next to him is Peter Henner, who is from the Civil Liberties Union, and is going to talk to us today about some of the constitutional issues involved in the case. And over my right is Kathy Callan, and she is the, well, how to describe you do everything. I'm not sure we have titles in the Muslim Solidarity Committee, but she is the all-purpose person who covers the secretary of the Muslim Solidarity Committee. So anyway, I just wanted to lead off a little bit of background about the case. The case started apparently at some point when the government decided that they believed Yasin was Aref, the imam of the mosque up here, was in some respects, in some way, we don't know, dangerous or a person of concern. This is part of the secret evidence that Peter will be discussing later. But anyway, they decided to start a sting operation. They got a hold of a Pakistani who had been convicted of a number of felonies and was about to serve a lengthy jail sentence and then be deported, named Malik. And they suggested to him that if he could get the imam, and I think that was, I'm quoting from the record on that, or at least get a conviction of him, that they would forget all of the past problems and put him into a witness protection program and allow him to be a citizen and so on. And so the sting was launched. And what they essentially did was they had Malik come up and befriend one of the people in the mosque, Musharraf Hussain. And he posed as a wealthy businessman, a person with a lot of funds. And he offered to loan these funds to Musharraf. Musharraf at that time was having a lot of financial problems with his business. And so he was, of course, very eager to do this. The loans were to be done in a traditional way under Muslim law, which requires that they be witnessed and that they be reduced to writing. And so through some clever manipulation, the Malik got Hussein to agree to have the transactions witnessed by the imam, Yasin Aref. So that essentially was the structure of the sting, that the imam would come in and witness this otherwise perfectly legal loan transaction. And he received nothing from it. It was typical of dozens of transactions that he had witnessed in the past as performing his duties as an imam. Once these transactions began to go forward, these loan transactions, Malik began to suggest in different ways that there was something a little fishy about the transactions, that the money came from an importing business of ammunition, that he was involved in an organization that was trying to liberate Kashmir, which this organization was on the terrorist list, that there was going to be a missile attack in New York next week sometime. He would make these statements, and the question was, and from a simple sting point of view, the whole question was whether or not the defendants understood it or understood it as a serious threat or simply talk. Insofar as Yasin was concerned, I think there were 3 or 4 times when the government tried to introduce this evidence or these hints that there was something illegal about the source of the money coming in, which would have made it money laundering. And in each case, the defense said, look, he could not have heard this, he wouldn't have understood it, he didn't know what it means, he would never explained it to him. And in each of those cases, I have to say the jury found him not guilty on those charges. In the end, the jury found him guilty only of the last of a series of charges. There was about 8 meetings, and he was found guilty on the last of these meetings, at which, at least so far as we can tell, nothing significant happened. So from our point of view, the defense point of view, the verdict doesn't seem to make any sense. Whether he was not guilty at the first of these meetings, he was not guilty at the second meeting, he was not guilty at the third meeting, and the fourth meeting. By the time he got up to the last meeting, nothing significant happened, and yet he was guilty at that meeting. Insofar as Musharraf Hussain is concerned, of course, the government has always maintained that he was never a threat to do anything. They didn't even ask that he be incarcerated pending trial. He was just a person that happened to be there that they could use to get at Yassin Aref. And so in his case, I mean, his defense was simply the classic entrapment. He never had any intent to hurt anybody. He was just a family man, American citizen, running his business, and was just trying to keep it going. Any criminal intent that was involved there was in the mind of the government, not in his. And certainly I would say the same thing would be true of Yassin. There was no indication that he had ever had any interest in terrorism or involvement in it in any way. So, and in fact, in a lot of the conversations that the government produced as part of the sting operation, you have Yassin saying things like, you should not give your money to the terrorists, give it to the money, if you're going to help the people out in Kashmir, send the money to help the women and children, don't send it to the terrorists. Or when you came here to this country, you promised to obey American law, and Americans always fulfill their promises. We, as Muslims, we have to do that. He was speaking as an imam to a person and trying to explain to them that violence of any kind, blowing up buildings, these sort of things are not helpful. You shouldn't do them. So anyway, that's the background of the operation in the Sting case. I'm going to just pass it over for a moment, I think, to Peter maybe, and let him discuss the constitutional